Hey, what's up guys, it's Boogie back again with a new video. Today I'm going to be doing an NRL tier list or ranking or ladder prediction, whatever you want to call it. Basically, I just want to go through the teams this year and where I think everyone's going to be sitting. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Comment down below all your predictions, who you think is going to sit everywhere. I love the conversation, and this year's it's really tough to really put anyone into any position. Like you got a whole lot of teams that finished like horribly last year that have gotten a lot better, but then again you got a couple other teams that I really think are going to stay where they really are and that. So basically this video is just if your team sits wherever it does, you know, don't get mad or anything like that. It is what it is. It's just my opinion. Obviously I'm a Warriors fan, I'm going to be biased, but you know, it is what it is. So let's get straight into the video anyway. So the first team on the list, which I think is going to be one of the strongest teams this year, is the Melbourne Storm, obviously. So I think this year, I think they're going to be a top 4 team again, especially the way Munster's looking this year. I think he's going to be a key part, and pickups like Xavier Coates, you know, I think he's in for a big year this year. Obviously a lot of improvement coming from the Broncos, and just his potential overall could be something great. I really think the Storm are going to finish well this year. You know, the combinations of like Harry Grant and Brendan Smith, who Brendan Smith is looking like he's playing lock this year. So that combination is going to be really, really good. And even like players like Jerome Hughes, who had a really, really great year last year. I think they're going to be on the up and up and in a top 4 position. So the next team on this list is the Parramatta Eels. And so if they played anything like they played in the trials, you know, definitely top 4 team. But this is a tough one because I just don't know where to put Eels. Like, you know, they go so well. Well, actually, it's pretty simple in a way. Like, they go so well in the season, come the final series, that's where they sort of falter. So whether they, you know, take a more relaxed approach to the season and put all their effort into the finals, who knows? But looking how Gutho played in the trials, how Mitchell Moses played in the trials, Dylan Brown's looking amazing. You got like new players like Penasini that are looking really, really nice. I think they're in for a big year. We didn't even get to see Sivo or any of that in the trials, so they still got like better and better to go, you know, from that trial period. You know, I think they're in for a big year, so they're going to be in my top 4, I reckon. The next team is like sort of my maybe my smoky top 8 team. Who knows? Like, it's the Canberra Raiders. Basically, see, this is a tough one for me. I've been contemplating for a while where to put them. I think they're definitely my mid-table team. I think this year they could be in for a big year, like with players out like Fogarty for an extension, like a decent part of this year. I think they're going to be up and down maybe, but once Fogarty comes back, I think he's really one of the like a really, really good connection with a player like Jack White, and just, you know, if they can get that connection right, with Chance coming back, I think they're in for a good year. That forward pack's still amazing. Like, they just need to stay consistent, and hopefully no outside noise affects them again this year. So the next team, we got the Rabbitohs, and they're sort of my team that is going to drop a little bit this year. I still don't think they're going to drop out of the 8. I really see them being a mid-top sort of team. I think they're in for an okay year. Like, they got pieces that are going to fill in the spot of like Reynolds, obviously, with Ilias and that. It really depends on how quickly Ilias develops into just all they need from him is basically just kick to the corners, get everything right. And Cody Walker, as we've seen in the trials, is just going to take a shitload of that load off him. So I think they're in for a decent year. I just don't know. They're one of my teams that's like, they've lost like big experience in like obviously the coach, you know, Wayne Bennett going to the Dolphins, and then like a player like Reynolds to leave to the Broncos. Like, that's a big load of experience, so they could really move in and out, but I see him being a mid-top. I don't see him dropping out of the 8. I think it's just going to be a tough year to put him into the 4, that's all. So my next team, we got the New Zealand Warriors, obviously my team. I'm going to be a little bit more biased, but I really believe that we're in for that like 9, 8th spot. I think we got a really decent team to play with. It really just depends on injuries. So like Sean Johnson obviously has some injury problems, you know, this and that. But, you know, when Sean Johnson's on and playing, I think he's really underrated halfback overall. Like, he can direct the team really well. He's got silky, like, passing moves, and having someone like Ellie Katoa running off Sean Johnson this year is going to bring me back to those like Bodine Thompson vibes, and just people hitting those short ball lines off him, and like, you know, Brinton Nakora like loved it last year with Sean Johnson hitting those short balls whenever Shawnee was on the field. So if Shawnee's on the field for a full season, there's no reason why we're not in top 8. We got a heavy like forward pack, Adam Fanor-Blake and Matt Lodge. You got boys like Tohu Harris coming back, like Ben Murdoch-Masila. Ellie Katoa looks really, really nice. Josh Curran, who's always there and trying. And like, I'm missing some of the other players. Like Ewan Aiken going to the second row position is looking good. Like Sirenen looks nice. So I really see us going to be there. I'm really excited to see how Rocco Berry goes this year and just see what the next step is for Reese. If Reese Walsh can take that next step, would be really nice. Another one of my mid-table teams is definitely the Sharkies. So the Sharkies could be, it's the first year obviously for Craig Fitzgibbon. You don't want to put too much pressure on the Sharkies, but they're one of those teams that could push up to like top 6 to top 4 sort of position. But, you know, they could be around this sort of position of 7 to 10, most likely. They're definitely one of the teams fighting for the 8. But, you know, with the defensive setting that they had in the trials period, you see that, you know, Fitzgibbon is a great defensive coach. It's just whether Nico Hines can take over that, like, you know, playmaking role, which I think he can, and really control a team around the park. So exciting seasons ahead for the Sharkies, with like good additions of like McGuinness when he gets back from injury, Finucane when he goes well. You know, I think the Sharkies are going to be in good stead. So my other team that's kind of very like in a smoky position for me is the Dragons. So like the Dragons, you know, at the moment I'm going to sit them around this mid-bottom because, you know, I feel like last year, you know, they were in the 8 and they were going so well until the controversy of the barbecue. So if that never happened, were they going to stay in the 8? Like, you know, they weren't going too bad at all. And with all the new juniors they got, they could definitely push for an 8 position. It was just so tough this year to pick, like, you know, as I was saying, like within these spots here is definitely teams that I think are going to be pushing for that position. Like, it's going to be a tough year to separate all these guys again. I think the top 4 is still going to be obviously the top 4 dominance wise, but not as dominant, I don't think. I think it's going to be more of a tighter competition around here, which is crazy to think. Like last year, you know, you could have been under 500 and made it in top 8. So, you know, big year in for the Dragons. They got some great young players coming up. Obviously the recruits that I've got is a lot of experienced players that, you know, some have played Origin and that. They're one of those teams that I could be definitely wrong here. Like they could be in mid-table, like 10th, 8th team, but at the moment I'll sit them right here. So the Titans are definitely my other team that I could be pushing for an 8 position. It really comes down to their experience in the halves and their spine. But if they all like, you know, jump on each other's back, you know, play through players like Fafita and Tino, you know, there's no reason why they can't be around this mid-table pack or even in this top 4, top 5 position. But again, with injuries and stuff, I can definitely see him dropping down a lot more. But at the moment, I'm sitting them right here in the mid-table pack. That's going to be my prediction with them. I think Toby Sexton is in for a decent year. Like, I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid, like his first year, like proper year starting all year. You know, I would have loved if they kept Fogarty and kind of bled him in properly, but that's not the way everything goes. But I think the Titans are definitely a top 8 team. I could definitely see them probably around this position. Then again, I could switch this around and look at it like this, or again, look at it like that. It's a difficult one, but I definitely see, like, I'd say probably the Sharks maybe in the 8, maybe the Titans in the 8, maybe Warriors 9, and I'm a Warriors fan. Like, I could definitely do that because, you know, like I'm biased. I think we're going to make the 8, but if I'm going to take my bias away, like, you know, the Titans have got some good shine with them. The Raiders are in for a good year, I reckon, if everything comes together. So it's going to be tougher with this position here. So the good old Broncos, definitely my second team that I love. Like, I grew up with the Broncos. My dad's a massive Broncos fan. Like, you know, there was a good period there where, you know, Carmichael Hunt and Darren Lockyer were my favorite players by far. You know, I watched a lot of their games, went to a lot of their games. But, you know, we all know the new Broncos these days is very inconsistent, and there just seems to be like this toxic aura there at the moment where they're just not, they're not striving with the team that they've got. Like the team list that they've got, they should be within that 8, you know, 10 to 7 position. But with what we've seen from the trials and stuff this year, it's so hard. Like it's hard for me to say because I definitely love the Broncos. Like these two are my two favorite teams. Like I live in Brisbane, so Brisbane is always close to my heart. I hope they do well. I just Adam Reynolds is a question mark for me, but also like he's a reason why they could be around this position here, but also is a reason why they could be here. It's like, is he enough? You know, is Capewell enough to bring him into the 8? Like I could definitely chuck him in here, like 100%. Like they could make the 8 this year. And if you're a betting man, like they could be like the value to make the 8. But it's just, it's whether they do. Like that, the trials didn't suit me, and I don't want to go off trials, but just seeing him in the trials, like with the half their team without Reynolds, it's like, how much is Reynolds going to change this team? Like their kicking game is going to be a lot better. You know, defensively, yeah, they're thereabouts. They just need to stay consistent and defend off their errors, you know, and they're a momentum side these days. Like if they're flying, they're flying, but if they're down, they're down. And unfortunately, I see them around this mid bottom. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but guys, I'm really hoping I'm wrong. I hope I can put them up here one day, but I just don't see it. So the Manly Sea Eagles, I got them in my top 4. I think they're in for a big year. Definitely. From the trials, they didn't really make too much wrong. You know, a couple of injuries, which was pretty bad. But once they get everyone back and firing, they're going to be a good team. And like, you know, obviously X Factor, Tommy Turbo. Whatever you chuck Tommy Turbo into this team, they're a top 4 team. Without Tommy Turbo, they float all the way down to here. Like, it's the craziest thing ever. I haven't, you know, there hasn't been a player like that in a long time. And I think they're in a good year this year. As long as Tommy stays healthy. They got a lot of good juniors coming through. I want to see Fainu come back, hopefully sometime this year if everything goes well. You know, they're definitely in my top 4 if Tommy goes well. But again, if Tommy gets injured, man, I don't see why they aren't down here and one of these other teams push up. But at the moment, definitely in my top 4. So the Doggies this year, I struggled like with the Doggies as well. They're one of those teams, as I was saying, it's close between the Doggies, Dragons, Broncos, Raiders, Warriors, around this sort of position here. Not so much like, you know, you'll see with the other teams, what I would say is like more so easier to chuck them in that thing, like that bottom positions. But the Doggies, it's tough for me to chuck them. I really see them at 13, maybe 12, pushing up. You know, it depends on these two here. I see the Dragons being a lot better this year, so that's why I don't know, they could push up. You know, it's tough putting these teams the way they are, but the Doggies, you know, I think they just need to stay consistent, build an identity, like, because at the moment you could just see they're in shambles. Like they got players like Pangai coming from he performed well at the Panthers, but because the Panthers had so much experience and it had an identity of not being that player that comes out and wanting to be an individual and change the game, or just be like, you know, he did it in the worst way possible, which is like people call him a grub and that. But, you know, if there was an experience pack that they had an identity and they've been there, they've been to the big games, to legit walk it over to him and just say, stop everything, you know, and give him the full potential, like, you know, they could be in good stead. But, you know, with the team that they got now, like, who's going to step up and tell him to pull his head in? Like, really, you know, no one really has the experience, like Addo Carr maybe and that, but, you know, he's only been a doggy for like what, this year. So, and the halfback, like Avarillo, you know, if they're going to build long term, like I could see maybe building Avarillo as a half. Like, I think Avarillo is more of a strike player. Like, he's a very like center fullback 5'8" sort of player for me. And then to pick up someone like Burton, like I could see training Burton into 7, more so training Avarillo into 7, which, you know, that could make that partnership work a little bit better, I guess, if I'm looking at it from that angle. But like Cole Flanagan's sitting in their like their reserve squad sort of look, and he's not even getting runs in the trial period. Like, I don't, you know, I feel like we've seen a lot from Flanagan in the Roosters to how he kind of went with everyone. He wasn't an individual type player, but he did a lot of the sort of 1%ers that can give someone next to him all the shine. Where Avarillo, I feel like, is another strike player that could take away the shine from Burton. Like, you know, you got to have that sort of balance between the squads. But then again, like, I could be like totally wrong here. Avarillo could kill it at halfback and I could see him around this position. But I've got to sit him at 13th for now and see how they go this year. But I feel like the Doggies are definitely not going to come last this year. I feel like they got a lot more strike this year, and I can see them improving around to this 11th, 12th spot. It's just that race for that 8th spot's really tough. So the old Knights this year, I got them around the 14th spot. I don't think they're going to be wooden spooners, but I wouldn't be surprised. But then again, if they kick on, they could be around this 11th spot or whatever. But, you know, with players like Ponga and Clifford's been kicking on pretty well, Braden Best, Gagai, they're in for a good, like, they got a good team list. It's just, you know, they've had a good team list for like how many years now, and it just never worked. Like, Piercy was there, but if Piercy dropped out for injury, they were in bad stead. So even though Clune looked pretty good, like, and for Knights fans, I'd be like, Clune didn't look too bad to be in that position next to Clifford, and Clifford looks like he's taking onto like he's taken a next step sort of thing into his career. I don't think he's too bad. Like, he looked pretty good in the trials, so there is good signs there for the Knights. But, you know, with injuries like to Brayley and that, it's so tough. Again, this year is so tough. Like, I don't see him. I don't see him being up around these sort of like squads here. But then again, if Ponga goes to a whole new level this year, like, you know, they could sit around here. But you got teams like these teams here, I feel like are going to be a lot more consistent. I know the Warriors' first 5 games are amazing. And then after that 5 games, we play the Roosters. But we could go into the season at 4-1, 3-2. Like, if we go 4-1, we're a momentum team. We're here. Like the Titans, they got some juniors there that, like, if they kick on, like Fafita's one of the most damaging players in the league. If they kick on, they're around here. The Sharks, they look like to be more of a consistent sort of outfit that are going to be there with a strike player like Hines and that, and Mulatalo looking really nice. Like, they're going to be around here. And the Raiders, if they get Fogarty back, I could see him being around this position as well. You know, tell me, like, with the Knights, like, I just don't see it this year, unfortunately. But, you know, I hope the Knights fans stay sturdy as they always have. You know, you just need time, and I hope Ponga re-signs there and keeps everything going there. You just need a nice direct half, you know, just to come in there and let Clifford run his game. I just don't know where to, you know, where you could fall this year. I definitely see around that 13, 14 spot, unfortunately. So the Panthers, they're definitely going to be in my top 2 this year, maybe first, maybe second. I see them, you know, going on again, another great year. You know, when they lose Kate Well, they got people like Liam Martin to fill in that spot. You know, if they lose Coruscant next year, they got Mitch Kenny that looks great filling that spot. They're one of those teams that like in the next couple of years, they're going to be still up there. Their New South Wales Cup team is killing everyone. So, you know, they got the juniors for it. Even though the Eels just killed those juniors in the trials, like the juniors, they all look good. You know, you got Talon May still waiting to get a spot. You know, Tago's getting a spot this year. You know, you got all these young kids like Maverick Guys coming through too, like in the forward pack. So, you know, they're just going to be up and up. Unfortunately, the Cowboys, and they're the weird ones here, like, you know, whether they're definitely for my either wooden spoon pick or my bottom 2 pick. You know, with the trials, there was promising signs. It's just they're in such a weird position. You know, if they can keep everyone on the field in the right positions, Valentine Holmes is jury's still, like, he did really well in the trials at center position, but obviously jury's still out if he's a center. You know, a lot of people still see him as a winger, but you got people like Tuolangi in the wings there, and he's looking really nice. And you know, the hammer at fullback is a strike player there. I think Townsend's going to be really good for him this year, like keep him steer him around the park. But then you got, like, you know, Dearden had one really, really nice game, and it's looking like they're going to start him over Drinkwater, who I think is their other X-Factor type player. Like, I think Drinkwater will pair up with Townsend just as well. So it's like they're in these weird position where I can see them crumbling, but I could also see them, like, kicking on. But, you know, if we're going off last year and you're seeing the team list now, you're just seeing Townsend, Peter Hiku, who, like, is still a great player, but I just don't see him changing the Cowboys squad the way he is. Tanoa Brown's going to be in a good player for them this year, so I'm excited to see how he goes for the Cowboys. But just, unfortunately, I just don't see him going past the 15th to 16th spot, to be honest. So the West Tigers, I can see him going around this sort of spot. Maybe they're going to be my bottom 2 team. At at best, I can see them going around 14th, 15th, 14th, 13th, you know, but at worst, I see them around this position. I wouldn't be too discouraged as a Tigers fan, though. I think we all know, so, like, they have to get past what the last couple of years are, and still just build fresh. Jackson Hastings looks really nice for them. They'll just have to keep chugging along. Again, this all just comes down to, like, you know, they're trying to get better in a time where everyone else is getting better. So it's like they've missed their run so much with all those ninth place positionings. Like, you know, if they've just had a couple of tweaks to their squads back then, or got everything together and just didn't worry about all the media and shit, like, they could have kicked on to be a finals team a couple of years there. But now that they're in this position where they've got these players that can kick on, every other team's got players that I can just name off the top of my head that are just going to contend with the players they've picked up. Obviously, their X factor is Leilua, but he's going to the Cowboys next year. He's in for a good season. I just not enough to say that, like, he's going to drag them into, like, this top sort of 11 or 12 position. Again, as I said, this I could be totally wrong, but I really see this is going to be my bottom 4 this year. Again, Doggies fans, I wouldn't be surprised if I see you a little bit up here. I just think there's teams here that I see could kick on, definitely, but there's, you know, it's so tough. It's so tough, guys. And even thinking that, I think after all this, I think I'm going to drop Manly down. I think I'm going to go the Roosters, my top 4, definitely. Like, my Roosters are definitely, the Roosters are in the top 4 for sure for me. I see them probably being around that first or second spot this year. Maybe that's going to be way I see my top 4. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think the Roosters, with all their injuries, everyone's coming back. Hopefully Kiri can come back off those injury and kick on the way he used to. I can see if everyone's back, you know, they're one of the best teams in the comp. Like, we saw them make, like, top 5, top 6 with an injury, like, full depleted squad. Now they get everyone back. Victor Radley hopefully stays away from suspensions. Angus Crichton's there. Teddy is the best fullback in the league, you know, bar Tommy on his day. Yeah, they're just, it's going to be tough to keep them away from that top 4 spot. You can see them either number 1 or number 4, but, you know, I see them around this, like, 1 to 2 spot. Maybe I'll see it like that. I'm not too sure, but, you know, they're around this this top 4 spot, so I reckon they're in good stead. This is not like, you know, the Seagulls I can definitely see being up there, and maybe the Eels dropping out of the 4. I don't see the Rabbits getting past that top 4 spot. I really don't. I feel like their experience loss is going to be big enough for them to stay around this spot. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's where everything's going to sit. I think the big, you know, smokies this year for sure is the Dragons. Like, I could definitely see the Dragons, like, kill it and get to that top 8 position, and they'll drop teams like maybe the Raiders down here, or maybe even my Warriors down here. But like, I don't see the Sharks. I think the Sharks are definitely in my top 8, maybe 7th position. And now it's up to these teams to get the 8, really. It's really up to these teams here. You know, the Doggies, I think you just need to get your identity. And then the next coming years, man, like, you're going to keep recruiting the way you got Phil Gill at the club. You know, I can see he's in the next couple of years making that final squad and really getting everything together. I think he's just a work in progress at the moment. The Knights, unfortunately, I don't know where he's go. I really don't. The Tigers, stay happy, guys. Like, you're going to be there one time. I think you just need that time to rebuild again. It sucks to say as a Tiger, like, you know, if you're a Tigers fan out there, like, I'm so sorry. Like, you guys have just been dealt a shit hand for a while now as the fans, and I just don't see it getting better anytime soon. I don't know. I want them to prove me wrong. And the Cowboys, like, you know, if the Cowboys kick on, like, I can see them going well, but at the moment these days, I don't see how they do it. I really don't. But again, this is all subject to change, and, like, I'm excited to see the discussions in the comment section. I'm gonna change this back to where it was before. I'm gonna see it like this. Yeah, around that. Hope you guys enjoy all the content. I got my new fantasy coming out soon. I'll make the video on that pretty shortly, maybe on Wednesday. And then, yeah, we're into the NRL season, guys. Hopefully, yeah, get excited. I'm so excited to see how my Warriors boys go and the Broncos go. And obviously every other team. Like, this year, it's an exciting year. There's so many teams that are pushing into that 8 position, but again, I don't see this top 4 changing too much unless there's injuries or something happen. I think these top 4 teams are going to be the way they are. I think it's up to these guys to step up to get into this position again. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Like and subscribe, comment down below, or who do you think is going to sit everywhere? Again, I could be definitely wrong, but you know, I'm biased Warriors fan, or I like the Broncos and that. You guys could be a Tigers fan and thinking you're going to make the 8, but I'd love to see the discussion down below. And yeah, hope you all have a good week. Up the Warriors. Let's go.